Welcome to the Tales from Travellers podcast, a show that aims to share the unique experiences of expats, travellers, and those who have chosen to make a life abroad. Through our guests' unique experiences, we will explore the challenges and rewards of adjusting to a new culture, making connections, pursuing a career, or even raising a family in a different part of the world. Whether you're a seasoned traveller or new to the expat lifestyle, this podcast could be an insightful tool or a fun distraction for anyone considering moving abroad. Today we're joined by a very good old friend Chris, who had a wonderful time exploring the ship life, as many call it. Now, the cruise ship industry moved to a standstill during the coronavirus pandemic, but the Cruise Market Watch reported in 2021 that the industry recovered to levels last seen in 2006 and is still continuing to grow. And with 50 recognised cruise line operators and 21 new cruise ships set to be delivered in 2023, there is no slowdown for demand from passengers. And with this demand comes the need for a complete staff list. So, Mr. Chris, very good
Hello.
old friend of mine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This could be a difficult one to start it off with, but on your cruise ship travels, could you give me an idea, what countries did you go to?
Yeah, well, very, very fortunate, I would certainly say. One of the best ways to travel in general. You go to sleep and you wake up in a new country, and it was as cut and dried as that. I mean, I was fortunate to be with Princess Cruises, and they have their main sort of line out there on the western side of the USA. So did the whole of the coast of California, going up to Alaska, involving Canada, and then all the way down to Mexico. So sticking on that west side of the continent, but then going over the Pacific, over to Hawaii, Fiji, Bora Bora, Tahiti, all of the French Polynesia. And depending on the contract, like I say, 6 months on, 2 months off, fly home, then fly back out again. So that was the Caribbean, transatlantic, through the Azores, over doing the British Isles. So pretty much, yeah, quite a bit, but mainly on the Western Hemisphere.
How did it come to be that working on a cruise ship was your chosen method of exploring, travelling, and working abroad?
I mean, ultimately, everyone's got different reasons for wanting to join ships. It is largely you benefit most if you're young, single, no commitment. You just want to travel, and then you'd join a ship. I mean, mine was retail because that is largely the only background I had with retail. So that's what I joined, as that sector. But everyone's got different reasons. I just wanted to get away, change my life around. Had no commitments, just travel the world, and really that was. There was no particular reason. Everyone's got different ones, but mine was just I didn't go to uni myself, so this was my uni, effectively, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life.
Looking at some of the stories over the years, it's definitely a unique experience,
Mm.
and I think a lot of people, they don't tend to maybe think about such a nomadic traveling lifestyle when it comes to
No,
working on a cruise ship.
no.
I mean, was it you said you just wanted to get up, kind of change your life, experience something.
Mm.
Was what was the working travel the first choice, or was there an option to just go traveling and just backpack it?
No, yeah, no. Man needed to be paid. I needed money. It had to be work travel for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but that did for me. Um, it is such a different it is a different lifestyle, to a point where you just do not know and you cannot describe it. I'm going to make a bad example of trying to describe what it's like living on a ship, because you can't describe it until you're in it. I remember the first day, I got a call in your kitchen, in actual fact, and I remember getting that call saying, "Right, you're joining today." Oh, right, okay, cool. Well, no, sorry, on the following Sunday you start your job. Right, we're going to fly you out to Hawaii. Oh my God, okay, sure, and then you fly out, you join the ship, and you sort of. I just remember joining. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I don't know what to prepare for. There's so much you got to consider. The cabins are so small. There's no windows in there. you're working with 56 different nationalities. It's a whole new world, and it got to me for the first couple of weeks. I didn't think I could hack it. A lot of people say that. um, the fresh fish that come on board, you get really given 2 weeks, and within that, and most people leave in that 2 week window. If not, you stay on and you're there forever because it's so addictive.
Talking about those people, you give yourself 2 weeks. I mean, with a lot of traveling and working abroad, there's always this almost fantasist idea of what it will be like. Everyone glamorizes it in their head. It's going to be stunning, it's going to be beautiful. You're going to be living the dream. You're a main character in your own movie.
Mm.
But then, as you mentioned, there's something that I also experienced. The reality kicks in almost immediately. First night, first week.
Mm.
What did you expect from it? And then how much of that completely changed after your, say, first week?
I knew on a basic level, you go there, you're going to be on a ship and you're traveling around the world. I mean, that is the basic level. I knew that was going to happen, obviously. Everything else was the polar opposite, different of what it was in reality, in terms of how fun it was, that of being a positive. But again, it's hard to describe what it's like living on a ship because it is 24/7. You're living off of fumes, and quite frankly, you are literally a sailor in every aspect of the name in terms of drinking 24/7 just to get on with it. Like, and that sounds really bad, but that's the same thing. Like, to be able to essentially put up with the passengers and the amount of questions that you get, and the stupid questions, like, oh my god, it is absolutely crazy. I got on a daily basis when I was in Alaska, somebody said, excuse me, what side of the ship are the whales going to be and at what time, like as if they're animatronics. Like, it was like, are you crazy? It was one of the best things, one of the best and one of the most frustrating things. So what do? You party, you go to sleep, you work, and it is on a 6 month basis. You slowly kill yourself health wise, and I'm sure every single cruise worker would be able to agree with me on that one, because you work your ass off. You do, and it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I worked 2 Christmas days on ships, and it felt like any other day. There's no world outside of the one that you're sailing on. So yeah, it was different completely. The work ethic was just overwhelming, and the way of life was completely different. But again, you love it or you hate it, and you hack it or you don't. And I managed to hack it.
No, you definitely hacked it. I mean, obviously, you went away for a good few contracts, which we'll come on to in a bit. But you mentioned that, to survive, you need to go through, you need to drink, you need to party, you need to let loose.
Yeah.
How long are the working days on average for, obviously, you worked in the retail sector.
Yeah.
How long were the working days and
So
week?
yeah. So every sailing can be that could vary. When I joined my first contract, that was a month sailing, so it's with the same passengers for a month. And then a turnaround schedule could be every 3 days. It could be different passengers every 3 days. And so it would depend on the schedule, and also it would depend on your department. So in retail, for me, it was illegal for the shops to be open when we were in dock. So when we're in dock and it's closed, then that's it. So then all retail stuff you would do what you want. You can you go off of the ship, see that country, do some things, and then largely it would be, say for example, the ship would dock at 9 a.m. It would be all aboard by maybe 6, and then so you're there in the evening, for about 4 hours sometimes, depending on the day, or well, depending. It depends. For me, it was dependent on when the ship was docked. If it's a sea day, it is 12 hours, basically. It's a 12-hour full day, sometimes 14 hours, where the shops were open.
What about, obviously, you mentioned going from port to port. What was the longest period between a port day and what was the shortest? Was there a period where you were literally working 2 days straight, and were there periods you were working, 30 days straight?
Yeah. So again, on the schedule, when you're at sea, there's the worst thing for a worker is to see the schedule saying that there's 5 sea days in a row, because then it will literally be bang, 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 bang every day, every day, every day, and that's it. The best thing you could see is if the ship's doing an overnight dock, then my God, then the ship's crew is elated, because if it's an overnight, most of the passengers are off. They the catering staff are free to do what they want. There's no photography to be had, pretty much, because all the passengers are off the ship. The shops are shut, so all the crew just go, thank God, here we go. So that would be the longest period of not working if it's an overnight, but the overnights are quite rare. Um, the worst is multiple sea days back to back, because then it is 24/7, no rest. That's it. And some of the guys, I was fortunate to join retail, like I say, because the shops are closed, whereas the catering staff, the bar staff, the cleaning staff, my God, they are machines. And we would, like, the retail staff and the photography and casino, whatever, we would all be in the bar together. Will have already been there for maybe 4 or 5 hours already. It would be 4 in the morning, and a guy would come down from, say, engineering or the cleaning staff or whatever, and be like, right, I've just finished my shift. I start my next 24-hour shift in the next hour. And it's like, shit, man, like, go to bed. No, got to keep going. Like, it's crazy. That's the real sad thing about it.
Hopefully, imagine there would be a pretty good pay, I'd imagine, with these kind of long hours and everything.
I don't know, if I'm honest, but it wasn't enough, and they don't get paid any extra for it. I mean, if some of the, say, the room stewards, if the stewarding rooms, they would obviously, well, they heavily rely on tips as well, and the tips can be great. They're Americans, so they always tip. The Brits obviously don't. But they would always, some of the tips I saw coming out of that was great, and they would tip at the bar, they tip at the restaurant. But some of the guys that, like, are down in laundry or cleaning or in the incinerator room or whatever like that, they work so hard, and they're not going to get paid any extra for it. Like, they're just ran down to the ground, and that is sort of the dark side of ships, I would certainly say. Predominantly nationalities down there tend to be Filipino and Indonesian, and they've got their reasons for it as well. They're forever sending money home, and they'll work their ass off until they're dead. Like, that is literally what it is.
I mean, obviously, you've got long hours, paid not as fantastic as you'd imagine it to be for such long hours. You mentioned earlier the cabins are quite small. I was lucky. I was say luckily enough to see you on one of your port days in Southampton, and I got to see your luxury villa of 6x6 box room that you shared with another
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
No window. I mean, what were the box rooms like, and was everyone in it, or were there certain tiers of
Yeah.
rooms depending on who you were?
So that's the other side of it. It depends on your rank and depends on your job role, on ultimately what sort of standard of living that you get as well. So me, I was customer facing, passenger facing. So I had a cabin where I shared with one person, and I had my own bathroom with that other one person, which was, I mean, you saw it, it was small enough. There was no window. I had carpet. That's a bonus. I had carpet, but it is bunk bed style. And largely a lot of retail tend to have that exact same one. So the photographers would have the same cabin that you saw. The casino staff, the whatever, they all tend to have the same one. When it comes to tiers, yeah, as you're going above, if you have some stripes on your shoulder, some epaulets, and you go up in the ranks, if you're a guest entertainer, if part of the theatre production companies, they tend to have slightly better rooms, where they might have their own room. If you're management, you absolutely will have your own room, double bed, everything. And you have a window. My God, if you have a window, you're probably going to get laid that night.
Oh, wow.
That shows your rank. Do you have a window? Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to marry you.
Oh,
Um,
wow. The
and then
bougie
of
things
course,
in life.
Oh, so bougie. And then ultimately it goes all the way up to the top of the captain, who obviously has the penthouse.
Yeah.
He has multiple windows, the bastard. But
Oh.
but then you work your way down, and then of course it does get worse from there. So I mean, where you saw mine, it was two people to one room. We had our own bathroom, which
Mm.
was no bigger than an airline toilet. It was smaller than an airline toilet, to be fair, but it was our own. Whereas if you're going the ranks below and you go to the lower parts of the ship, because that's ultimately where it is. I was always sort of mid-range, spa people, everyone was sort of deck 4 to 7. The cleaning staff, bar staff, engineering, cleaning, whatever, tend to be on the lower decks, probably about deck 2, where there is no carpet, unfortunately. And one of the ships that I was on, it was ultimately about 3 people to one room, sometimes 4 people to one room, and then it would be 4 cabins to one bathroom. So you're looking at about 12 people sharing one bathroom, effectively. That was on my first ship, I remember, but it was pretty horrific. And they don't have, yeah, like I say, it's cold, hard flooring. They don't have carpet, and that is a shame. That is really
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, depending on what your role is, unfortunately.
I mean, I think we will go on to a bit more of the positive side of things, but obviously, one thing that's kind of coming to mind immediately, obviously, depending on your role, certain luxuries provided, as you mentioned, certain rooms, a window is a luxury, and long hours, limited days off. And you mentioned most people tend to maybe find out in 2 weeks if they're cut for it. What was the staff turnover like? And I'm assuming if there was a high turnover, a lot of it comes down to just mental health reasons. Did
Yeah,
that tend to happen a lot?
yeah, no, for sure. I must admit that on board, I mean, like I say, I worked for Princess, so maybe other companies did it. I didn't see so much on the mental health side. Obviously, there's always people to talk to. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to be too negative about it, but it's an insight into what it's like, and the reality is, a lot of the times people can't hack it. They'll just leave, and unfortunately do things to themselves.
Yeah,
It wasn't every cruise, but it happened quite a lot where, unfortunately, crew suicide is a thing, and is pretty horrific, and they feel that they can't hack it and they don't have anyone else to talk to, whether it was they couldn't talk to their friends or their families ignoring them, whatever. You just have no idea what's going through their head. And unfortunately that has happened quite a few times, more than I thought I was going to see. Well,
yeah,
not see, but hear about. And but in terms of crew turnaround, it largely people stick it out, and it's always happening every single cruise. When a cruise would come to an end, there's always new people coming on board. There's never going to be a shortage of people, depending on your contract. There's always people are just about to finish their contract and start a new one every turnaround. So, whether that's a
mm,
month cruise and then the month is over, everyone goes home and a whole new lot of people come on board. So yeah, no, turnaround is constant on a near to daily basis, whether that is
yeah.
people of their own volition or it's just their contract is ending.
Before moving on from this, I just want to, for people who are considering or have looked on to working on a cruise ship, and obviously you do tend to question, can I hack it? And it's good to be open about it so people get those honest insights into it.
Mm.
But want to make sure that if people are unsure and some people are a bit more introverted. In terms of communication, obviously you mentioned that there are some people you can talk to. You do make friends on the cruise ship, but then
Oh
what
my God. Yeah.
on top of that, what is the what is the conversation like with, say, people back home? Let's say someone wants to speak to their mum, they're nervous, they're scared. What are the opportunities to call home? So we say just have that reassuring voice.
Quite difficult, unfortunately.
Yeah,
When you're in the middle of the ocean or the sea, there's there is no signal, so you have to use the ship signal, and it is or the ship's internet. And again, like I say, I worked for one company. Multiple other companies might have different ways to do it, but for example, you would have internet cards you can purchase, for example, and you use it sparingly because you can have 1 hour's worth of internet for $20, and it's like, Jesus,
Wow.
$20, But you find after months of it, $20 doesn't matter anymore. You'll pay that to have that line of communication, or it would be a certain amount of data, which minutes on a card, time cards, where it would equate to an hour or so. And that's
Yeah.
about, I can't remember what that was. I think it was all, again, about $15 to $20. It's a lot of money because you're using the ship's communication systems, and so you're going to pay through the nose for it, but people do. People paid a lot of money for that, and the conversations are so valuable. Like when I phoned you a few times as well, and I didn't even care what we were going to talk about, and with my parents at Christmas time. Oh my God, I remember trying to Skype my parents at Christmas, but the ship's Wi-Fi was knackered, so it was the most frustrating thing you could ever say. There's no point of phoning home and saying what you're doing. All you want is that reassuring of, like, I'm fine. Are you fine? What have I missed briefly? Because we're on the clock. Unfortunately, you can't have. So that's why most crew members, especially in the States, will get off that ship quickly. And Starbucks is your best friend, because of the free Wi-Fi. Like, to have free Wi-Fi anywhere, the first thing a crew member will say, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as soon as you get to a restaurant, what is your Wi-Fi password? Because you're not going to use your own data. You're going to pay through the nose for that. So free Wi-Fi is golden. And yeah, you just see, if you're going to see a port, you'll see at least 100 people looking at their phones or iPads phoning home. And the conversation doesn't have to be anything. It's literally just a familiar face. But that being said, the ship itself holds another family, and you do become incredibly close very quickly. And here's the best pun for you, because we're all on the same boat, right? Literally. Hey, there you go, bang.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. But that's the point, and we're all in it together, and we're on the same ship for a very, very long time. So you're going to have to get on. You're forced to get on, and you need to make friends. And unfortunately, you mentioned about people who are introverted. It's not for you if you're introverted. Quite frankly, you'll have a very, very bad time and a very hard time, because I saw people who were introverted and didn't want to. Well, couldn't make friends, basically. And people try, obviously they'll go to them and say, hey, do you want to join us? No, I don't. They were very lonely for half a year of their life, and I felt really bad for them, but that was their decision. It's not for you if you're introverted. You, especially depending on the cruise line that you work for, you have to be out there and put on the show, effectively, is what it is. You put on the show 24/7. When you're walking across passenger deck and you see passengers coming up to you, they're like, hey, how are you? How's it going? Yeah, and you're just like, oh, I'm doing great. How about you? It's like the show.
Almost like working at Disneyland. Everyone's on.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Yeah, and you could be hanging out of your ass, or you just like. And you're just like, I don't want to see a single person today, but hey, how are you? Oh, I'm so happy to see you. It's just, that's the way it is. That's show business in a way,
Talking about the friends made, you mentioning you need to be, if you're introverted, it might not be the one for you. But if they are, how easy was it for you to make friends? Are people extremely welcoming? As you mentioned, you're all on the same boat.
Yeah, everyone remembers what it's like to be new,
Yeah.
And I did have a wobble myself when when I first started. I thought, this isn't for me. I did break down a lot, and I was like, Jesus, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I was unfortunate as well. Unfortunately, like, for example, one of the fellow members of management that was there was literally something out of the darkest parts of the Bible. She was one of the worst human beings I've ever met in my entire life, and that's unfortunate. There's not many people like that, but this particular one had the reputation fleet wide as being a complete fill the blanks, but it's that's just unfortunate. So that didn't help, and that really ground me down. But like anything else, it's crew turnaround. Her contract's come to an end, and then another person came on and completely changed my whole experience, changed my life. I was lucky enough to have really good roommates as well, really good roommates, and the common theme there was they tend to be Serbian and homosexual, which is absolutely fine, because they were the best people, and we got on like a house on fire. I don't know how many ship husbands I actually had. I'm very comfortable in my own skin, I will say. But it was crazy, and it was so supportive in the way of that they could see that I'm having a hard time, and it's like, look, just give it another week. Give it another week, because weeks literally are like hours. Like it's a time warp. Like before you know it, a month has gone, and you're like, oh my god, like that legit felt like 5 days or up to a week, because you are
Mm.
constantly going. But yeah, no, the support is there for everybody, but you need to make them connections quick to establish that support network. I meet my
Yeah.
Personally, I'm an outgoing guy. I'll say hi to anybody. It doesn't bother me at all. So it was very easy for me. But others, it might not be, and that is what you need to establish quick, is a good network of support,
Mm.
because it's hard.
And that's really good to hear. And there's a few things I've heard about the ship life and certain stories. Maybe you can clarify one, and this might be one that almost solidified your bond, your friendship, your kinship with your fellow shipmates. Is it true that the first time you cross the equator, you get thrown into the pool on the ship, and
Yeah,
it's a ritual? Is this true?
yeah, the kissing of the fish. It's an old Greek tradition, crossing the equator. I don't know if it stems from that. Ultimately, I didn't know about this going in. When we crossed the equator once in the middle of the Pacific, I was told for luck and joy for the rest of your life, you need to get thrown into the pool by Poseidon himself. It's a guy dressed as Poseidon, and you need to kiss a fish. I mean,
Oh,
obviously, I want to be safe, safety first. So let's cross this equator, right? And yeah, you get thrown in, almost drowned, and you make out with a fish. And it was quite a big fish.
oh.
Don't
Um,
know her name, but it was it was fun. It's little things like that. It stems from a very very old tradition for safety, and you basically making an offering with the gods at the time, and that was that one.
mm.
So yeah, there's loads of obviously old sea traditions, and that was a fun one.
It's definitely one of those things, and it's one of those moments that I imagine you just don't forget because it's something not everyone does.
No, it's
So
so unique.
be- before we kind of dive into a bit more of your experiences there, one thing I think we need to cover is what was the application process like? You mentioned you kind of just wanted to have a change in life, but
Mm.
a lot of people may be put off by a 30-page application booklet. But what
Mm.
was the application like to work at Princess Cruises for you?
Incredibly easy, almost too easy. To be honest, it was literally a case of apply online, which I did. I think I was fortunate because they were really hideously understaffed at the time, in terms of the retail sector. So that
Mm.
was fortunate for me. But the majority I mean, I don't know. This is going back to, when was it? This was almost 10, oh my God, 2023 now. This was 10 years ago. This is literally a
Going back
decade.
now.
Oh my God. So things could have probably have changed in a decade, but at the time, it was just apply online. You get called in for an interview down in Southampton. I can't see that unchanging. You go down and speak to the relevant interviewer for that department. and it was literally a case of, can you read? Can you write? Are you stupid? No. Cool. Right. Well, here's a job. And it was like, Jesus. I think it helps that I think it helps sometimes with your nationality as well. With the fact that if you've got a British accent, and that can work wonders in Princess Cruises, quite frankly, because there's not a lot of people from the UK there as well. So that will certainly work in your favour if you're looking at working in retail or cruise staff. The forward front entertainment that do the welcome aboard shows and hosting the bingo and.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm obviously I've seen a few things, especially when you're working in certain parts of China as well. I mean, a lot of the time they were talking about they want British English. They want the more English you sound, and the more I don't know. I suppose classic cliche English. Yeah, that's what they're after, because it's
Yeah,
for some
what
reason
they
it's still an old school kind of way of thinking about that
very
British
old school.
luxury that. Yeah, and it's probably something that just won't go, because I suppose that's what people want. That's the image they go with. So
Yeah,
application quite easy. You got through. Did you have any choice in the cruise ship direction, or do they literally just take, you're going here, this is where
that's
you'll be going?
literally it. Yeah, zero choice whatsoever. And I even fought it once, and I said, my first ship, again, like I say, that was going to. I mean, I was never going to argue with that one. It was like, we're going to fly off to Hawaii. It was like, oh my god, okay, fine, I don't care. And it was my first ship, so I didn't really care. My second ship, which was one of the newer ships at the time, was one of the real big ones. It was the Regal at the time. There's loads more ships that's come out since, but the Regal and the Royal were the two big flagship ships that hold 5,500 people. That came out, and I got offered the Regal, and I couldn't believe it, and I didn't care where that was sailing because it was a beautiful ship. And they said, I think it was within 2 weeks. Not only did they say, well, that particular point, I thought I was going to be home for Christmas, and then I got a call halfway through my vacation, and they said, we need you now, and you need to go in 2 weeks, meaning I'm going to miss Christmas. And it's not going to be the Regal, it's going to be the Royal. And I was pissed. Like, I really wanted, and I mean, they're the same, but I also knew a few people that was going to be on the Regal as opposed to the Royal as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to do it. But again, that's where the Caribbean itinerary came out as well. So I thought, okay, well, I've not done that, but we're also going to a few places I've already been to. So I was a bit fighting against it, but the answer to that was, you will do this contract or you quit, and you don't
Oh.
have a job. And it's like, right, okay, well, I don't have much choice. And quite frankly, that it's a good thing I said yes, because that's where on the Royal, that's where I met my now wife and have children. So if I didn't,
You didn't have
like,
children on the ship, though. Let's just
no, not
clarify
on the
that.
ship. Yeah. I took children from the ship. Um, no, but that's just I'm a heavy believer in fate, and that is if it was what's meant to be is meant to be, and that is crazy. They could have easily have said, oh sure, okay, well you can go on the Regal or stay or not, but yeah, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have met my now wife, and yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
basically to answer that question is no, you have no choice whatsoever.
Well, let's quickly go on to this topic, and then we'll come back around. So tell me, obviously you met your now wife. You've been married for 7 years.
No, I've been with her for 8 years. We've been married for 3.
Oh God, well, gosh, it feels so much longer.
It's well, 3, 2, 20. I think, is it 3? Yeah, it is 3.
Yeah, sure, why
2019.
not?
Sure.
Yeah, 2019. That was
I
it. Yeah,
met her in 2014, so that would have been, oh geez, that's coming up 9, a long time. We've been
yeah.
married we've been married about 3 years, I think, and then for
Yeah.
29
We won't.
September
We
20.
won't. We won't. We'll cut this out just so in case she hears and she loses faith. But
You
So,
won't
so
cut
tell me, obviously, you met your now wife. You got two beautiful children with her. Do a lot of people find their, like, say, that their future partner? Do you find a lot of people have partnered up since working on cruise ships, or
Yeah.
were you and Emma a bit of a rarity?
Um, we're a rarity in the way that we met and we stayed together. There's a hell of a lot of relationships. You get it? Relation. Jesus. Okay.
Lol.
Ha.
You're on fire today, Kirkcliffe.
Trying for you. I am pure fire. There's a lot of there's ship romances everywhere, every corner of the ship. But whether it lasts, actually physically lasts, is a rarity. I was very fortunate in the sense of that I met the one I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. It wasn't just a ship. I had plenty of ship romances myself, and so did she. That's just the way it was. It was one of the, quite frankly, the way to pass the time, and it was the most fun thing I've ever. This is my uni. Take that as you will. But when I met her, that was it, and it was. I was like, Christ. I was fortunate that I met someone and fell in love with someone. One that was in the same country. There's plenty of people that fall head over heels and want to marry them and have kids and everything like this, but they live in South Africa or they live in wherever. Name
Yeah.
another country, the USA. And long distance relationships are the most common relationships, is long distance, because inevitably you're going to fall for someone that is from another country, and it's either, and what's the chances of them moving to your country or you move to that? It's a hell of a lot. It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And I experienced this with Emma. I had long distance with Emma because we met each other on the Royal, and then the contract after that we were split up, even though we applied to have twinned contracts. It sometimes might not happen, and it didn't happen. I was again doing the Mexico Alaska run, and she was doing the other side of Mexico, just on the other side of the country. We were just apart for 6 months,
Yeah.
and that was one of the toughest contract I ever had, unfortunately,
Mm.
for one of them reasons. And that's when I realized, I just can't do this. I'm not going to do this again. I'm slowly killing myself anyway because of the workload and
Drink.
pure alcoholism. But I just want to be with her now, and so we both quit together. And again, that's a fortunate thing as well, of meeting someone that has the same mindset of you, because you both, it's a big commitment as well. You're both quitting your job for each other,
Yeah.
basically. Not everyone's going to do that. They need a job, but we did. And so but yeah, I think I was just fortunate in the long run as it went on, because I fell straight into a travel agency job, now being a travel agent, only mere months after that. So I was very lucky. Not everybody else is lucky in that respect. But no, me and Emma is a rarity when it comes to ship relationships that's still stuck together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe Emma worked on for the cruise ships for a bit longer than you, didn't she?
Bit longer. Yeah, I was about 3.5 years total. I think she was about 5 years, 5.5 years total.
Yeah.
She was master photographer on the ship, so she run her own photography studio. She started off as a photographer doing, she dressed up as a beaver and an ox and a whale, and doing the Disneyland thing outside the ship when you go and have character photos and stuff. And she did that, and shooting at the dinner table. She did all that, but she did so well that she got promoted, and she had her own ship. She had her own ship. She had her own studio
Wow.
on a ship, and her work's incredible. And that, it was one of the things as well that I was just like, damn. And funnily enough, that was one of the problems as well, is because I didn't when I first met her. I knew in the most stalkerish level ever. I was like, I knew that this woman is this is who I want to be with, and I never saw her for a month after that. because I
Oh.
didn't know where the studio was or what she did. So I thought literally she just ran away, and effectively that's what she did.
Oh dear.
I, yeah, it's like a horror film, stalking on a ship. I sound like a horrific human being, but it was quite lovely in the end.
Yeah.
But that's what she did.
Well, well, I've said it before, but wonderful congratulations and a happy little life that you're both living now with your two children.
Mm,
But
thank you.
obviously, you were there for 3.5 years. Emma there for about 5. Were there people there who are making it almost a career? Do people go for long, or is it quite a short term career?
No, yeah. So that completely depends on you, but people have made it a career when they completely didn't expect it to be. One of the most common sayings you'll ever hear from a crew member is one more contract. By far the
Mm,
most common thing you'll hear. And I did it as well. I went, okay, one more. I joined to do one. And you remember me saying to you, I said, I just want to do this for 6 months. And you were like, yeah,
yeah.
cool. And then I found why it's so addictive. And then I just went, okay. And I said to you, and you remember it on the phone, I'm going to do one more contract. And then I did it again. I said one more contract. And so I did 3. And people went on there to do a couple, maybe 2 or 3, and they've been there. Like one of our good friends, John, you met John as well.
Yeah.
He did ships for 10, I think 10 or 11, 10, 12 years. And it's
Wow.
crazy. He said originally he just went on for a bit of a jolly and just wanted to do a couple of things. And you one more contract turns into 20, 25 years. There's a guy I was very, very close with, and his name's Gordon Wilson. He doesn't he was on ships for 25 years, or a quarter of a decade. He's not on
Wow.
ships anymore now. He owns his own real estate agency in Mexico. It kind of like took a bit of a turn there, but he is the quintessential example of why you find it addictive. Of the fact that he went on there, starting off, wanted to do a couple of things. He's got a very infectious personality, so like you'll just want to be friends with him instantly as soon as you meet him. But you live like a rock star every single day. As you said, you are your own character in your own film. Everybody
Mm,
knows you on the ship. Everybody says hi to you. The passengers get to know you very quickly if you are passenger facing. This is what the addictive side of it is. If you're passenger facing, the
yeah.
addictive side to it is that it can be good money. If you're not passenger facing, and that's what people, it can be relatively good money. But if you are just recognized everywhere. Sometimes even people want to take pictures with you. Like it's just like this crazy, like what, like I'm obviously in the real life. You're not used to this. You're partying all the time. You could be an ugly bastard like me and get laid. All this, it's just like this is something that I never thought I would ever be able to experience in my
Mm,
life. And you are getting constant attention, constant praise, good money, and it's one more contract. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to, you make family with them, friends, like family, and you just crying with laughter on a constant basis. You just feel good about yourself. You're made to feel good about yourself. Um, which can be hard to do, to find on a daily basis when you're doing the general commute to the same place on land. It's like, here we go, the daily grind. It was not that way in any way, shape, or form on ships. Yes, it was very hard work. It wasn't just the work. You are that role first.
mm,
No, sorry, you are that role second, but what you are first is a crew member. So there's a lot of crew drills. There's a lot of life jacket demonstrations. There's a lot of, you could be put in charge or second in command of a muster station. Muster station being that emergency section of the ship where you were passengers, say 500 passengers are allocated to that one muster station area. So they will go into a lifeboat in terms of emergency. So you are in charge, or going to be, potentially could be, in charge of 500 people who are going to panic and scream in your face because they think the ship's going to sink. So you are a crew member first, but I
mm.
think that's also adds to the addiction. It's like it's just this crazy world.
Yeah.
So yeah, people will say one more contract, and years fly off the calendar, and that
Yeah.
is the bad side of it with
I
what
mean,
we miss.
yeah, it's got both ways. It's good and bad. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people, and I understand the kind of addiction of what it's like. I mean, you get into this kind of routine of living outside of what you would consider your normal life. You're seeing so many different things. You're experiencing different things. You've got so little cares as well when you're out and about, working abroad. You've got that income, you've got that freedom, you've got that sense of exploration, which I think is always,
Tax-free income. Yeah,
yeah, well,
well,
yeah, definitely that was always a delight. But what you mentioned about all these people who have, do it for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25. How easy is it to get a new contract? Obviously, they employ you, I think, on a 6 month basis, so, give or take. Do they just come to you at the end and be like, "Yeah, listen, do you want to do it again?" Or do they give you a performance review? Or you
mm,
mentioned it's like uni. I mean, can you get away with blue murder and come back for a second contract, or is there a
no.
sense of performance reviews?
There is performance reviews as well. Seeing if you are good enough to stick in your role. If there's different levels to every single role. There'll be like level 1, level 2, level 3 pay bracket roles as well. It would be so you'd have performance reviews on that particular thing to see if you're doing a good enough job to be warranted to be paid that much, whatever. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, you will know what ship you're going on next before you leave the ship that you're on.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and that's such an exciting thing. Everyone looks forward to that. They know they've got about a month left of the ship that they're on, and they get handed, right, here's your next ship. So they're like, oh my God. And most people who's been on for so long would be like, oh, I know such and such and such. And they start getting in contact with them people already to create that friend network. So it's going to be an easier time for them. They immediately look at the schedule and they're like, oh my God, we're going to go to China or Japan or whatever like this. They start looking at and everyone. It's a very exciting time for most people
Yeah.
because the ship that they're on, they're already bored of probably by then, and they can't wait for vacation time. So they're like, right, okay, I got 2 months off. Sometimes it depends. There's varying contracts. There's 4 month, 6 month, longer contracts, and sometimes my example is that they cut my vacation time in half, and so that can happen. Some people don't even have vacation. They will opt to just go straight onto the next one because they know they'll lose it if they don't, and it's money at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
I mean, there's so many kind of impressive stories so far, and that you can see why it's easy to get addicted. You've obviously talked about kind of having those experiences, meeting friends, talking with family, getting to experience this, having some nice pay, getting that sense of your main character in the story. Now, let's talk a bit more about your experiences. Now, I've seen a couple of the photos. You're quite a photo dumper when it came to logging into Facebook every now and then, and you could tell when Chris had internet because there would be a series of photos coming on. Now, I don't want to sound too Blade Runner here, but you've seen things many people wouldn't believe. There are some incredible photos, but we'll get onto these photos and the experiences. But would you say that these port days and when you get internet, it was that those were the point? It was all worth those long working days, working weeks. Were port days
Mm,
worth the hard hours and the many
mm.
hangovers?
100%, yeah. And at night time as well, if you're import and you get to go off the ship, you're allowed to get off. It all makes it worth it. Like it's just again, as you say, experiences and things you'd see and do that. One, you'll either never be able to afford. Um, Predominantly, you can do whatever you want in this world if you have money, but if you can't afford it, then you never see it. Or have the time to, or whatever. So I mean, for example, for me, I've never skydived in my life, obviously, and I've never, who gets to jump out of a plane often enough, and I always wanted to do that, but I figured skydiving in Hawaii might sound better than skydiving over Hull in England, like it's or
Yeah.
Norwich. It sounds a little bit more impressive, and it was one of those bucket list things I never thought I'd do. I jumped out of a plane wearing an authentic Hawaiian shirt and some dog tags, like it was a Pacific War movie, over Big Island where they were filming King Kong, and it was like never like how, like, where, who am I to have been able to warrant this? Swimming with dolphins, blah blah blah. That's what people do, and yeah, it's a lot of money, but when are you? I would have absolutely kicked myself hard to this day if I was too hungover to do it or couldn't afford it or whatever. It's you that makes it worth it. The whole point of working is to do things like this, and for sure, it's life changing.
Would you say that working on the cruise ship and doing all those contracts, do you think that's kind of did that help influence who you are now? Did it kind of change your views on everything? Do you say it's had a lasting
Completely,
impact on your life?
completely changed my life. I yeah, from I was slowly running myself down into the ground when I was, a lot of things happened in my personal life that was driving me down into the ground as well, and I was. I say drinking excessively. I couldn't have probably drunk more than if I was on the ship, but I was really unhealthy. I was getting really bad in terms of I was a lot more overweight as well. In myself, I felt disgusting, and I needed to change. And I shed half my body weight on ships. I was the thinnest I've ever been. With the sun, everything like this, my skin rejuvenated. Literally, you just turn into a completely different person. There was one point when I was in Alaska with Gordon. Actually, we were hiking through. I think it was in Skagway, Alaska. We were going through the forests, and we went hiked up to glaciers, and we found an ice cave. I believe that's one of the things that you saw as well. There was an ice. There was what my favorite picture I ever took over my ship career was that one picture. Was when I was in an ice cave, completely natural ice cave. There was no signs to it. It was something I felt like Indiana Jones. You've just discovered something. And there was a point where Gordon took that he took that picture. I just looked through the roof of it. It was like you could see the sky. There was a hole in it. All I did was look through that, and he took a picture. That for me was the moment that my life completely changed for everything. Like, I thought, there's more to life. There's a world out there. Go see it. Do whatever you want to do. Do what you need to do, and just think about you. Be selfish. Be happy in
Mhm.
yourself. And that was the turning point for me. And then I met my wife, and then, my God, my life just completely U-turned for the
Yeah,
absolute better.
no,
Like, I just
definitely.
felt more grounded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's a absolutely stunning photo, and I'll be sure to share it on the Instagram. But yeah, there are certain moments, and I mean, I think a lot of people who go traveling, they do find these, that they're not tourist destinations. They're not like they're places off the beaten track, and you kind of find these little things, and it does open your eyes. And I'm a adamant believer in that traveling does expand the mind and expands like your how you think about the world as well. Where you never realize how big the world is until you see these non-touristy areas. I
Yeah.
still remember the first time I hiked up a mountain in like Wenzhou and had this view with ancient Chinese temples on one side, culture on the other, ocean here, and yeah, you do start to reevaluate. And I think that photo is a perfect kind of encapsulation of what your experience was like.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
but obviously, you
Yeah.
talk about these kind of U turns. But one thing that I find, and I've spoken to a lot of people about, is even though you're experiencing the world, you're enjoying experiencing the world, you're seeing these sights, your sounds, tastes, everything, you do start to miss the little things, and people do get homesick. You mentioned you broke down a few
Mm,
times. I've said that my first night in China, yeah, I definitely had a breakdown, but
mm,
you realize that when you do come home, things do and don't change, and it's kind of hard to describe it to people who haven't
yeah.
gone through it. But
Yeah.
what bits of home did you miss? What things did you miss out on? But
Mm.
would you say any that you missed out on? Did they make you regret going?
Yeah. I think the things that make you regret being there is the little to incredibly big things when it comes to friends and family, as in life events.
Mm,
Um, again, going back to Gordon, he's probably the best example I could give here, is that he missed multiple friends' weddings. He missed multiple friends' funerals and deaths, and things like that, where it is massive. It's life events where you would absolutely not want to miss it for the world, but wherever you are, you either can't leave, or if you do leave, then you are quitting your job. So I mean, it depends on how important it is. But some could argue it's just like, oh well, if it's so important, why didn't you just quit? Whatever. What happened to me was the loss of my uncle Derek. He my dad's side, my dad's brother, and that was the one point where I thought I'm going to go then, but I couldn't. I was literally in the middle of the ocean. I physically couldn't, even a helicopter couldn't even come and get me. Like we were so far out. So I would find out that he passed, obviously, and that would just completely, obviously, devastated me. But I couldn't be there for my dad, and I couldn't see him. I couldn't be there for the service and be there to support him as he's carrying the coffin. I was just thinking, just on a daily basis, of I'm missing this.
Yeah.
Why am I here? But I couldn't leave. I just could not physically get there, and that was the point of, you felt like you're in prison because there's things that you're missing out on. So yeah, funerals, weddings, life events, the little things you land-based activities of you don't so much really care about. There's a lot of things that change, especially in the town that me and you used to live in. The shopping centre there, it's like, oh, that shop's changed, or as you say, or oh, that bar's not there anymore. It's like, oh, okay, sure. Life just continues, and it's that would probably mean a big deal to somebody that that it sees it on a daily basis, that works on land. But when you were on ships, or when you jetted off and you came back as well, it was like, all right, it's the little things you don't really so much care about. It's the big things, like life events, that you miss out on. And yet time is very, very, very valuable. Long distance can be a killer, like but you do it to better yourself completely. I mean, me and you live on pretty much the other side of the country now. That doesn't stop our communication. This is very much similar to ships. Like, I will see you. I will be seeing you personally shortly, and it's as if I saw you yesterday. When I talk to you on the phone, it's as if I saw you yesterday. That's what obviously friendships is all about. But you just get used to, that's life, unfortunately. You got to think about yourself. You got to think of the betterment of your family, but at the same time, it's missing out on the big things. But when it comes to ships, that was a hell of a lot different. You just physically couldn't be there, and that is the point where you think this isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and then with you carried on, you powered through, and I think, even your dad said to you, experience it, didn't he? I mean, there's nothing you could do, but you carried on, and I completely understand, how you went through. I lost my granddad whilst I was away, and it's extremely difficult, and you do feel trapped, you do feel lost, but that's when, again, as you mentioned, communication is with home, and people will say to you, yes, you've got to keep going, and the great thing is those family members would have said the same thing, and that they would have said, you're doing something so few people have the courage to do, and they would have wanted you to carry on. So
and largely that's pretty well what everybody tends to say. It doesn't matter what the family is; they tend to say the same thing of like, well, he or she wouldn't have wanted you to, give it up. So just carry on what you're doing. But it doesn't stop you feeling like the worst person ever, that you can't leave. And that just really eats at you, that you're missing this, But yeah.
No, 100% agree. And I think, this has been a fantastic chat, Chris. This has been absolutely great. I was always fascinated by kind of your ship life, and I think you've kind of really shared a lot, and you kind of explained a lot the application process, building friends, keeping that communication where you can. But then more importantly, as we kind of just had this, living your life, and as you say, yeah, being selfish. And it's not bad to feel selfish about just experiencing your life and going off and doing what you need to. I find that's what a lot of people who go traveling and work abroad do. They want to take control, and I think that's the kind of the difference between taking control and some people might say just being selfish. But um
It's really not. It's not. I feel like I was 23. Yesterday. And now I'm
yeah,
34. It's like a decade just goes like that, and it's like, my God. Personally, I feel, if I was to die tomorrow, I could safely say that I've really lived my, and explored the world to the max that and my full potential that I could have done.
mm,
And I feel proud of that, and I'm happy about that. A lot of people tend to get to the point where, say, they're close to their 40s, and it's like, well, where have I been? Maybe a couple of places in Europe. Oh yeah, no, I went to Australia once, whatever. That's fine as well. But it's like, then I didn't ever want to feel that regret too late.
yeah,
That was one of the points, and that is all about being selfish. And that's what I didn't want to feel, was regret of, God, I should have done that, shouldn't I? Really, yeah, I didn't want to feel that,
no,
and
definitely,
I'm not going to feel that. But it's and so if you can, and you have the resources to, and the time, and the energy, it is a young man's game, quite frankly. Um, a younger man's game, and not having responsibilities like kids or relationships or whatever like that. Just do it. Like, you're literally losing nothing. You're
yeah.
only gaining everything on that one.
Again, Chris, this has been absolutely wonderful, and I thank you for your time this morning. But before you go, I'd like to ask my quick fire questions to you, just to see what comes
Oh,
to your mind.
okay.
So, so first questions first. What advice would you give to 22-year-old Chris before he went off on ships?
um, without without giving too many spoilers away, I'd probably say just stick at it, because it's gonna be one of the toughest things you've ever done in your entire life, but also the most rewarding in the end, and it will change your life completely. And I would say just roll with it, roll with the punches, ride the wave. There's another pun. Bang, boom. Yeah, I, that's that's what I would say. I just say it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, but just keep at it, like marriage.
Yeah. You managed to go to a fair few countries, you engage with a fair few different cultures. Did you pick up a favorite phrase that just became the natural?
um, other than one more contract, I'd probably say paisano was one I never heard of until then. Everyone paisano meaning, everyone says paisano. I was like, oh, he's your paisano. Paisano meaning he's the same nationality as you. So
Yeah.
if you find your paisano on the ship, you tend to be very close very quickly, because they all tend to stick together. The Filipinos, the Indonesians, the Indians, they've got a very large paisano gathering on the ship, so they all tend to stick together. But I tell you what, the unity of nationalities, it didn't tend to matter in the end. I remember sitting around a table, and it was me. It sounds like a joke, but it was me, an Irishman, an American, a German, a Serbian, a Ukrainian, South African. Did I say Canadian? Yeah, and
No.
an Egyptian. The one
Wow.
Egyptian on board that was there, and we were like, "Oh, come along!" And it was crazy how we're all, English is the main spoken language, on the ships anyway. But it was that we were all talking about the same thing, all laughing about the same thing. I
Mm,
know this is a long-winded answer, but it was quite fascinating to see how many nationalities got on so quickly, and outside of that, they don't tend to.
yeah,
But on ships, we
they
were
do.
we were just we just were so unified.
Is there a song on your playlist that you had with you all the time, or is there a song that you would sing to yourself whilst out on contracts?
I yeah, every time I hear Linkin Park, It wasn't a particular song to it. There was multiple songs, but Linkin Park as an artist, that's all I listened to. I don't know why. The one that really hits home that I always listened to was "Sharp Dressed Man" by ZZ Top, because that's my
Oh, very
dad's
nice.
favorite song. And I just every time I was sad, I would listen to that song. Basically, it's a fun song. It's a really good song, but it would just feel like home. But now that listening to that reminds me of ships rather than home. So that was the song.
Oh, very nice. And final question: what country is next on your list?
Oh God. Now I have kids, it's probably going to be Skegness. My budget's is gone thin, but no, country. I'm going to be doing a lot of staycationing over the next couple of years, but I would probably say the next one would probably actually be India. I reckon.
Oh, very
Never
nice.
been to that area, that side of the world. Love to see, the sights and the smells and the culture. It's never going to go. The bug's never going to go, and the interest and the curiosity. But I'd say India.
And just on that kind of last comment you made, you say the bug's never going to go. Um, do you still have that itch? Obviously, you've got a wife and kids. Not saying up and leave them, but do you think that is something that's this bug to want to go, this sense of wanderlust? Do you think that's going to be staying with you for the rest of your life?
100%. It's never going to go. There's people that has seen a hell of a lot more than me. I've been very fortunate in how many countries I've been to that I'll never have been able to afford in my entire life. Emma's seen a lot more than me, and there's people that've seen a lot more than her. And they always say there's always going to be somewhere else that you've not been to. That not only it kind of feels like a collector of countries of like, well, I've been there, there, and there, but it's just that it's somewhere different, and I
Mm,
want to get to know that culture and the sights and the smells, and it's never going to go. If you've got it, you've got it. If you don't, you don't.
yeah.
That's it. There's no middle. There's no middle.
Well, I feel like I'm saying your classic phrase of one more contract, but I'm going to just ask one more question. Would you encourage your children once they grow up to travel and explore the world?
Oh. So me and my wife have very different answers to that. Yes, as on a basic level, 100% yes. Would I want my children to join ships? No. Then this is selfish. I could tell you to join ships. I don't mind, whatever. When it comes to your kids, you just, because you know what ships is like, and
Yeah.
it can chew you up and spit you out, and that's exactly what my parents said. When I said I was going on ships, it didn't go down so well, but then they realized it's just concern for safety, you know what it is. But then they
Mm.
realised what it did to you as a whole. So I'm, I probably not my. I say that I don't know. I'm on the fence with my kids. I want them to experience what I did and see the world. And why not? Why the experiences in life, the life experiences they would gain would be crazy. But I know again how hard it could be, and I don't want that for my
Yeah.
kids. But it's so worth it in the end. So I don't know. I'm on the fence. My wife would be like, "Yeah, 100%, yeah, ship them off." But it's to give them that experience. But I just know how hard it
So
is.
it's
But
good to
that's
see it
just
with
me
your
being
eyes.
a concerned parent. But
But
largely, yes,
I, I,
yeah, hundred
I
percent.
won't ask any more
Why
questions.
not?
I
You
won't
live in the
stick to
world,
the
you've got to
joke.
see it.
But
Why not?
again, Chris, thanks again for sharing your story, and I really appreciate your time. But thank you again for telling us about the
Yeah.
ship life.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all right. No worries. It's been a pleasure to reminisce. To be honest with you, yeah, yeah. No problem. Thanks for having me on this awesome channel.
Thank you for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to the Tales from Travellers podcast to stay up to date on past and future episodes. I'm always looking to share new stories from expats and repats from all over the world, so please reach out if you'd like to share your story. You never know, your story could be the one that helps someone make that life-changing choice. You can find us on Instagram at Tales from Travellers. I'd love to hear your story, and more importantly, I'd love to share it with the world. I look forward to hearing from you, but thanks again for joining me, and until next time, happy travels.